Blog Talk Radio.
We're in Latin America to taste great coffee. This is delicious.
Mi café is 100% Arabica. What flavors do you taste?
Fantastic ones.
McCafe coffee is expertly roasted for a smooth, rich flavor. Now available where you buy groceries.
Just for You offers great savings on a variety of McCafe coffee items. Visit your local Tom Thumb to take advantage of these limited time offers.
Welcome to N5D Radio's Cosmic Awakening Show, where we are serving this galaxy and beyond. My name is Michelle Walling, and I'm your host. I'm with N5D.com, and our goal is to reach as many people as possible with a database of articles, videos, and radio shows that will help aid in your spiritual awakening. And I'd like to give a very special thanks, as I do every show, to our sponsor, Greg Prescott. He's our radio show sponsor at N5D Radio that makes my show possible. And Greg is the webmaster for N5D.com, which is the world's hottest esoteric, metaphysical, and spiritual database on the Internet. Now, Greg updates the N5D alternative news page every day, 365 days a year. And he's also the webmaster for BodySoulSpirit.com, where you can find great holistic and spiritual awakening articles, and as well as HolisticCancerResearch.com, where you can find proof of many holistic cures for cancer. And I'd like to let everybody know that Greg and I have a motto. It's called No One Left Behind. And you can browse the archives of my articles and all of my radio shows that I've had and have been a guest on my website, CosmicStarseeds.com. So there's many different levels of looking at information that we can offer. You can find more information about holistic life coaching and schedule a session with me at my website, MichelleWalling.com. And we go deep into the esoteric on my website, HowToExitTheMatrix.com. And so we don't really have a lot of time to do anything else but this, and we love it. Thank you to everyone for all of your support. It means a lot for us in order to keep us going. All of you out there that like and share our articles on Facebook, it's so very important, and we appreciate you. And also those of you who have sent donations in, we just couldn't do this without you. And so we appreciate you as well. And a special shout out to our Facebook friends, our Facebook groups, and the Cosmic family out there listening tonight. And I'm a part of a couple of Facebook groups I wanted to mention, like I try to do on each show. And one of them is The Power of Now. Isn't that a great name? And another one's called Stewards of Earth. And that's truly what we need to remember that we are, is stewards of Earth. And hello to y'all in the chat room. Wow, we just have, the chat room is just so full tonight and buzzing with energy. It's wonderful. We have all these beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining us. This week's topic is hyperacceleration. My guests tonight are two individuals that have been bringing forward information that explains how planet Earth herself has shifted our reality to an organic timeline in the effort to move us out of the matrix, which is a recurring cycle of time that has been kept humanity enslaved. And we've been here, folks, over and over again like Groundhog Day, and it is time to move out of time. Lily Earthling has a series of videos on YouTube and has been on this show before, and so I want to welcome Lily to the show. Hi, Lily.
Good evening, Michelle, and good evening to everybody. Sorry, it took me a minute to find my unmute button.
Nothing like making my heart skip. And I want to bring in Goz Stone. Goz first appeared with Lily on my show with her and has since completed a full show with me on his own. Welcome back, Goz.
Hi, Michelle. How you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. It's so wonderful to have you two on. On the eve of the total eclipse of the sun, a vernal equinox, and the new supermoon right around the corner. So I know this will be a very powerful show as we work against that which they are trying to achieve, because we are bringing everything into a nice, healed, centered, and grounded energy tonight. Now, Lily, you have a lot of information prior to this show that can be found on your YouTube channel. Is that Ivareb, I-V-A-R-E-V?
It's L-V-I-R-E-B, I think.
Okay, thank you. By the time I thought about mentioning on the show, I didn't have time to look it up, so thank you for that. And Goz, you've been on, both of you have been on radio shows. Lily started out with Lisa Harrison and Brian Kelly there's 3 shows, and those all can be found on, Lily, on your Facebook page. And for those of you that are in the Earth Soul group, there's a database there listed. And so there's a whole conglomeration of information that can be found that leads up to our show today. But in a way, today I would like to just continue with the knowledge built on all of those other shows. And we're not going to be taking callers today, but if you're in the chat room and you really have something you'd like to say or a question, feel free to type it, and I will try to get to it, because I know there's so much information and there's so many questions, but we want to make sure and give the full 2 hours to these guys tonight. It's just very important that I provide a platform for them to get as much information out as we can, because I think people are waking up so fast and finding that this information is finally the information that they've been looking for. And, you know, we don't know all the answers. We don't have everything. But what we do know is that we have had a lot easier time centering and grounding and looking within. And when we hear something that really resonates and sounds right, well, that's probably using your body to, discern. And so just take what you need tonight, and whatever doesn't resonate, that's fine. It either, maybe in the future time, it will come around. So, guys, the bizarre headlines happening now are signs that there is maybe no top leader out there. I mean, the programs like propping up the economy since the stock market crash in 2008 is a really good sign that there was trouble at the top. And now it seems on your last show with Lisa and Brian and the collective there, it seems that you mentioned that Enlil, who is the top Draco, if I have that right, may have jumped ship. And the Dracos may be fighting amongst themselves for the leadership role. And that is kind of what get confirmation as we're looking around and looking at the headlines. So if you could expand on that for the listeners, just briefly, I would really appreciate that.
I think I will let Goz talk about that.
Okay.
So, Goz,
okay.
please.
Okay, getting onto the subject of Enlil. Okay, we all know in the symbolism with the all-seeing eye, that sort of eye is actually the eye of Enlil, and Enlil's the God of the Bible, and he's pretty much, made out to be the sort of head dude, in all these sorts of different Greek and Norse and, sort of astro mythologies and all the different myths and, creation stories and stuff. But the thing is that Enlil himself is currently in a human boat. Really, that in itself says so much about, well, he's not currently hanging around in the astral, basically sort of, giving orders and, directing things and doing all that sort of thing. He's actually living a human life at the moment, and as to whether he even knows he's actually Enlil or not in a conscious sense, that's another question too, and I'll pretty much leave that one right where it is. And I'd also, like on the Enlil, but in addition to that, I'd also like to add that, yes, the Dracos, you could say, with Enlil gone, well, they would be sort of fighting amongst their hierarchy to be top dog, because they've always done that anyway. The Shem and the Hathor in particular, Draco creations of Enlil himself, they've always fought amongst each other to be the sort of the top dog in the pecking order, amongst, everything that they do, from sort of harvesting human and earth energy to sort of their whole empirical sort of mindset. So there's a couple of other characters that are kind of biblical characters and also New Age characters. One's called Azazel, who's an actual Hathor Draco, and then you've got Archangel Michael, he's a green Shem Draco. And so you've got these two guys playing both ends of the duality. And these guys were locked up in these statues about 30,000 years ago with what was going down on Earth then. And they hadn't been around here for a long time anyway, until 1972, until basically myself and my brother were sort of used to activate them while we're sort of really drugged up, and all this sort of lizard gland secretions and all sorts of, crazy sort of stuff they do to get you in certain altered states and turn on and off parts of your DNA so you can access certain parts of your genes and stuff, which is something else I'll be getting onto after this, the DNA coding itself and what that's really all about. But this is the thing. So these two entities are kind of like playing out both ends of the duality in the sort of the good versus the bad sort of astral sort of, divine sort of hierarchical sort of fight. And yet they've only been around since 1972, but then they've got all this time travel technology anyway that basically is hooked in with the whole CERN and the HARP sort of stuff. And they've been using this time travel technology for the last 100 years too. So since the 1920s, as well as their genetic sort of programs as well, to create all their Ubermunch, as I say, all their supermen, super soldiers, politicians, rock stars with these extra sort of bloodlines and stuff. And so they mix this all with their fake entities that they generate out of their belief programs. 600, I believe, is the rough sort of number they had at CERN, in creating all these sort of fake guardians of certain New Age gurus and sort of, for all sorts of spirituality sort of camp sort of reasons, because there's so many on the planet, I can't name them all. And so this is the thing, with the Dracos amongst themselves, sort of infighting to be the top of the hierarchy. But then again, you've got to remember that it's still pretty organised. Just because they're sort of gone, well, there's a lot of, stuff going on there in the sense of like Azazel and Archangel Michael have only been around for what, just over 40 years now, 45 years. So, well, not even 45, 43. So this is the thing, that had stuff in plan to basically release these characters at these times through certain bloodlines that they were searching for, through certain incarnations to do all of this sort of stuff and to create their whole sort of genetic sort of hidden sort of mafia bloodlines, all based on the Rothschild bloodlines mainly, and then trying to find all the two different sort of Christ character sort of bloodlines and mix all those bloodlines up together and, create a whole army, themselves, and with all these different changed names. And then they've got time travel technology to sort of place people in all sorts of, different sort of, parts of the ages because of the split dual cyclic sort of positive negative timeline thing that they've really been doing, making a dog's dinner of this whole sort of split timelines thing, because they keep on going back in time. So, for instance, and they've been checking stuff out with their looking glass technology for ages, and this is how they base, all their Marvel comics and stuff like that. And there's always a certain one outcome or the other outcome, positive or negative timeline thing, that's really symbolic and representation of all these super soldiers and different sort of bloodlines have created for different purposes that they're playing out in the fiction for their sort of scripted end times, for the new Earth and the new sort of humans that will be living on Earth and all, their whole sort of thing to basically transform the physical into, the actual inorganic sort of astral reality that they have already. So, it'll be interesting to see further, what the infighting is going to be. But remember that these sorcerers, these Swiss sorcerers and people right up the top of the intellectual sort of pecking order of the information, they planned to sort of activate. And you've got to remember, it's not just these sorcerers, it's actually the Dracos that are actually astral tagging these sorcerers, that are actually the factions that are trying to get their leaders back, sort of that have been locked up in statues, the genetic tech for creating humans, or what have you. And the fact that Enlil himself has gone into a human body, well, there's not much they can do about that except for astral tagging and keep him asleep.
Interesting. Well, I have a question in the chat room, and I don't know if you know the answer or not, but Linda B. wants to know, and of course, I think the whole world would want to know what body he is incarnated in.
I'm not going into that here.
Okay.
It's just too, just on a compassionate and empathetic sort of human level, because that's what we're ultimately doing as humans here in our organic soul regeneration. Well, if he's here in a human life and he's achieving that organic regeneration, well,
good
and
for
if
him.
he doesn't, exactly, good for him. He's doing the right thing, as all the rest. He's actually leading by example. But the thing is that if that person himself doesn't even know that he's Enlil yet, even though he's a highly knowledgeable person, well, imagine what that's going to put on the poor guy. It's like, and so for those sorts of reasons, I will not, under any circumstances, be even speculating as to who that is. And look, a lot of people think I'm absolutely batshit crazy for saying that I could know and all this sort of thing, but that's okay. I'm working from my centre intelligence here, which I've basically had to go out on a limb and do for ages. And of course, according to the normal mind-programmed paradigm sort of ways that we think and operate through reality on this planet, well, of course, anything on the cutting edge is going to be considered sort of batshit crazy. It's like humanity has always killed its best in that sort of sense. Anything that's at the cutting edge, and the people who make the big breakthroughs, well, quite often those things don't become consciously recognised for a lot of those people through history until long after their lifetimes anyway. So that's how things roll. So that's how the consciousness has got to flip itself back over anyway. And the way to do it, the best way to do it is to basically, the more you centre, the more you unlock of your actual DNA coding that is actually on your genetics, because DNA itself is a holographic coding that can be messed in with through the whole infrared sort of domain. Okay, that's where imprints can be made and communication of codes sort of arranged. But before 56 BC incident, there was no DNA coding on our genetics. Okay, so I'll let that sink in for a while, because the thing is that without this DNA coding, we can see into all of the reality, and hence why scientists rightly, in our current state of all these DNA helixes sort of switched off, well, underneath those helixes, the coding, nothing is switched off. But the DNA itself is sort of like it's not sort of like, it is all these programs that are programming the unconscious down there to operate in a certain way without you being conscious of it. So once you're centred and you can become conscious and unlock these codes, well, then that conscious part of your being enables you to see into more of the real reality that the DNA coding has basically, that's the thing that's made certain parts of our genetics asleep, hence why we have a sheep existence, in a general sort of sense, because there's a lot of parts of us that have been sort of switched off, like it's a lock, like there's the DNA helixes are like all these locks that you can turn on and off. And at the moment, there's this big sort of deception going on with New Age stuff, saying, okay, if you do this tech and this ascension tech and blah, 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 well, then you're going to activate all these DNA codes, so your transition to 5D or whatever the bollocks it is, it's going to be a lot smoother. And, they were hoping, to get onto the positive timeline, which is a much slower feeling timeline than the negative anyway, because the negative is identified by the fib of no chi, the Fibonacci sort of, sacred geometry sort of stuff, which is in line with the Earth tilt. And then all the Ashiana Dean sort of Christic spiral stuff is the stuff when, if the Earth was back on its 0 sort of degree tilt. Well, that's how all the astral level mechanics are all sort of working. So they're basically aligning the timelines to the 0 degrees and to the 23.4 degree. Okay, and the 23.4 degree one that aligned to is actually the Earth physical grids. Okay, that's the negative timeline, and it always feels faster because you look at the Fibonacci sort of mechanics, and it's always a 1-to-3 sort of ratio, and you look at the mechanics of the Christic spiral, it's a 1-to-2 ratio thing, so it's always going to feel a little bit slower. Okay, so this is the whole thing about, when we're finally over to the big positive timeline shift, everything would feel good again, and, the Dracos get to still control the game through that whole sort of dualistic sort of astral sort of illusion thing that they've got everyone going to here. But the thing is that the Earth coming back to its own sort of whole sort of timeline, well, that's kind of, throwing a spanner in all of their plans. And even the Marvel comic outcomes. So,
yes, I had
because they're all based on.
As a life coach, I had a poor guy come to me that had gone on the Marvel Comics website, but he didn't tell me for a while, where he was getting his information. The one thing he wanted to know more than anything is that if he were to kill himself, would he be able to create whatever reality he wanted once he was out of this body and go into that Marvel Comics reality, because that's where he wanted to be. So that's the programming that's coming from the computer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because they're telling you, don't worry about this human life. They're sort of manipulating the fact that, the souls are all eternal anyway, but they want you to be internal in their sort of astral dream world, Disneyland sort of thing that they're trying to turn the physical into as well. And that's the thing, with all these people that get mind controlled from all these comics to do crazy sorts of things, and you hear lots of crazy stories, I won't go into, but this is the thing, this is why it's a culture of death. They say, don't worry about your organic physical life. It's nothing. You can keep on coming back, but,
yeah,
sort of recycle.
You're already
second borns through the astral, because they're saying to you the real reality, with all these angels and demons and things and beings and stuff like that, and every single creation you see on a Mardi Gras float, well, they're going, well, that's your reality in the astral when you're not physical anyway, so it doesn't matter if you sort of eat shit food and put in medical things to your body that's going to create more illness in the long run because it's going to poison you through all the heavy metal poisoning and this, that, and all the rest of it, because the thing is that you're always alive in the astral. So that's kind of like the programming, yes. And with what you're saying with your friend there, well, that's what they're kind of telling them through the, the cartoon comics and all that sort of kids show programming is that's what it's reinforcing. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that here in the physical, well, there's nothing more powerful, because really all those invisible layers of the astral and stuff, if we had all the DNA coding taken off our genetics, we would all pretty much have kind of like X-ray vision, because we'd be able to see into all the invisible things that make up our physical reality. This is the thing. Yeah, sure, the invisible, creates the visible in our physical reality, but, when our consciousness, our genetics are turned off to the point so we can't see into the interconnectedness of all those things, well, then we have to rely on all this externalised system science and crap and stuff to basically maintain the illusion that all that stuff's not real and all in dreamland, while they get to manipulate it all. So,
right. The universe always, I don't know how, but they'll speak out of my mouth and I'll say a code word or I'll write an article that has a certain trigger word, and that's how he found me. And I'm just really glad that, listen, this is one of the hardest cases I ever had, but, there's a lot of people right now that are thinking about, or wondering if they just, end their life, then, things will be better because they'll be out of this dense body. And I can understand the way they feel, but then, it's my job to let them know that, with this physical body, this is how we are going to, this is our spaceship, Earth, we are part of her body now.
Well, this is the thing, how you fix mental health as well is by learning to become centered that keeps you in the present moment. And the biggest thing people have with mental health is that they stay stuck, in their mind, stuck in the moment, so to speak, that they can't get out of, in the sense of, once you're in your mind, that's where you become a duality slave and you're prone to the astral and all the rest of it, okay? But when you're constantly focused on doing something in the present, well, none of that stuff can really get to you. And the thing is that how you stay in the present is by staying centered. And to try and fix all these mental programs and mental problems, well, you shouldn't be just focusing our reality just from a holographic experience through the pineal, and having a mind focus. And then attached to that mind focus, we have a heart, sort of emotional center that's constantly sort of bouncing back and forwards in the duality, sort of yin-yang between mind and heart there, where really we have the rest of our bodies to balance what we sense and see into more of reality. And once we're more emotionally and mentally balanced, well, then it's kind of cool to be in your bodies. It's like the way that you approach and have a conscious perspective of the reality in front of you. Well, then, because you're present, to connect with all the reality, you actually have to be in the present moment too. It's like when you do the body pendulum stuff. That stuff will only work if you're present and centered in your body in the moment. As soon as you're in your mind, and there's many things that can force you in your mind, is fear programming, fear of self, self-loathing, all of the things that they've done in the mind programming to keep people in fear of themselves, fear of everything, fear of death. So they stay in their minds and they have no self-belief in their inherent centre, which is their whole body intelligence, to sort out their own problems and take accountability and responsible for living for their lives. Like, sure, we live in a horrendous mess, on the planet at the moment, but still, life can be good and you can still weave your way through all of this. Like, I haven't got a sense. I'm constantly, perpetually broke and in debt, and I've got Masons throwing bloody dominoes at me, from the shadows, every now and then to create this stress and that stress in my life. But, once you see all this stuff happening and for what it is, well, there's still great stuff in life to find out and keep the love amongst the living with all the people that you connect with and co-create, a good dream, a dream of life. It's actually the present, what's in front of you. It's actually not really, a dream as in the sense of like an astral dream, So there's a lot of simple solutions here that don't require all this sort of, anything but yourself and just being brutally honest with yourself, because that's how this all works. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, then you're never going to get beyond an intellectual paradigm sort of measure of consciousness, which is all mind consciousness. Mm-hmm. And the mind can't work out everything. So, yeah, there's some very, very simple solutions here that don't require, a lot of external things. But some things do require external help, and that's part of the human equation too. And say, like when you're getting rid of astral tags entities, well, I'll just say for now, no one can do this by themselves, not even a shaman, if they had basically, astral mind parasite or a Draco tagging onto them and that let them inside their biosphere with body of energy and they're hooked in, well, you need to get someone else to facilitate that entity to be removed, okay? And that's why there's shamans and energy healers that do this sort of thing and have done this sort of thing, since the dawn of life on this planet and this human experience. So there's some things, we do need each other for help for, but, there's an organic sense of helping each other, and then there's sort of like an inorganic sense of disconnection as well amongst each other. So that's pretty easy to discern in just a common day-by-day, sort of logical sort of way. But, yeah, although there's a lot of batshit crazy stuff to the real reality, once you see into all of the real reality that's basically its DNA coding has basically kept dormant from our everyday consciousness until we basically go digging through the parts of our ourselves, to try and find those sort of bits, to make them conscious again so that we can understand the full reality in front of us. And yet, a lot of it, through what has happened, through us being shielded from the real reality, through all this matrix DNA stuff, well, there's some very simple solutions to basically getting back on top of things. Yes.
Okay, so we covered a lot of topics, and I know the way you work, Goz. You just run with what comes through your mind, and I know people are thinking, "Oh, I've had so many questions. There's so many topics we covered at once." But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to DNA
Sure.
and see if Lily, if you have anything to add about the unlocking rather than the activating the DNA.
Well, I actually want to add something to the first subject.
Okay.
On the Dracos fighting for for the top spot. I wanted to bring the attention that yes, they do fight amongst themselves. Whoever's going to be in the top dog, and we can see that with sort of different countries right now and how they, sort of there is as you can tell, there is a split in the top cabal that is on the planet. They have sort of their internal fight going on. And this is what we see manifesting with, one country going against another and all of that stuff and disagreements in there. That's one part. But I wanted to bring attention that people think that they're fighting and that they are not agreeing on stuff. They have one subject or one that they do agree on very much. And this is the subject that they are very much all in unity. And that is that they need somehow to find the way to activate the positive timeline of the matrix. Mm-hmm. Because if no matter how much they fight amongst themselves, if they lose this battle and they don't activate positive timeline basically in the matrix, if they don't keep us in the matrix, if they don't keep this planet in the matrix, they're all done. They're a space dust. And that subject and that mission is very much unifying them, and they do work together on that. Whoever's going to control or be on the top once they activate that time matrix loop again, as they think they will, that's whole another level. And it has nothing to do with them having a unity in what they want to bring into the whole planet. Is this another time loop? This also ties in with all the spirituality that is also has this unity consciousness, as a lot of them calling that. That's what it is. It is bringing in that time matrix, timeline in. They're all agree on that. And even Archangel Michael having a big war with Azazel right now, believe me, they are agree on this subject as well. And speaking of Archangel Michael and Azazel, they have to have this dark versus light fight, because this is what creates energy. They feed on this duality, the reverse polarized duality that they have to. It's their food. Their food. And this is why there's so much drive for this light versus dark, because it's your energy that friction.
Yeah.
And it creates energy. The friction of this creates energy. This is why they had to reverse one side of the polarization. So it does create friction. So it doesn't flow in unity.
And that friction is sort of astral energy, which is electromagnetic energy, which is one and the same thing. And as we know with electromagnetic energy, even with your dirty electricity, that comes into your house, well, it's dual in nature. It has positive and negative charge. But the thing is that, to give you an example of organic internal creation source energy, or quarks as the quantum reality people call it, or whatever, that's like the orgone sort of energy William Reich and Tesla were basically tapping into. Okay, that's the clean sort of energy. Okay, it's like the cold fusion sort of energy that they were tapping into as well. So that is the difference between, E equals mc squared only pertains to electromagnetic energy. It does not have anything to do with the energy that comes before that, which is the organic orgone, sort of energy. So I thought I'd sort of discern that for people as well. And this fight in the astral, they've got to maintain the fight, as Lily correctly said. This is really crucial for them to create the friction, because they need it as their food. Without that energy, that electromagnetic astral energy,
Yeah, because they're disconnected from source, so they cannot get that energy from source. So the only way they can get it is by creating the friction here within the source-connected beings, like human beings here, creating friction amongst us.
Yep.
Right
and
here.
Then they just
this is
that
how
energy.
We feed, as humanity, this is how we feed astral levels. It's when we create this friction, when it's us against darkness, when we don't understand that it's a program created for that specific reason, so we can create and be in friction at all times, in every level of our life created. The program, every level of the program that they have here has that friction. And so this is how we feed astral levels. When we center and we stop doing that, this is when you cut off that feeding tube to astral levels. And this is why centering is so important, because it's not just that it will unlock the DNA coding. It will finish when you will stop feeding astrals. And we get in a lot of questions, people saying, how can we stop feeding astral levels? And we say through centering, because what it does is when you center, and just to tell you, when you intend to do that, you're going to get a lot of interference. There is people in your life that will start acting weird, and they'll be angry with you because they'll be activated to interfere, because what you do as a food source for astral levels, you're actually cutting yourself off. And they are not liking it.
Yeah. And everyone...
And people think that they're... If people think that they're worthless and they're a little and they're a nothing, a human being, a life force, an organic internal source creation life force that is unlimited within them, that's a lot of food for astrals. So people think that they're a little nothing, but one person that cuts off the astral levels and finish feeding them, it means so much to the planet, and it's going to do great things for collective humanity. So I just wanted to add a little bit of that to this, because there's a lot of confusion, and people think that astral hierarchy is, all in disagreements now because of what's going on politically on the planet. Yeah, that disagreement works for them, and they do have a one agenda that is they're all on board, except for those, of course, that are defecting astral levels.
Yeah, they all want to skin the cat, but they're all arguing about how to skin the cat, okay, just to put it simply.
There's that term again.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote an article on N5D about astral tags and implants. Thanks to you guys sparking the thoughts of what people really want to hear about out there. And that's really what I love about you guys is every time you have a show, every time you do a video, Lily, something, always goes ding, ding. Okay, I need to expand on that and write an article. And so that's what I try to do to serve this information agenda here. And, Goz was mentioning that astral tags can't be, something that you can dissolve yourself. But I did want to mention that the implants, which is something that pretty much everybody on the planet has, it's an energy signature, it's an energy frequency, and it's what is it allows them to use all the EMFs, the electromagnetic frequencies, different technologies that they have to keep us from not only keep us in discordance with each other, but keep us dumb and numb and just kind of like asleep. And so I did want to clarify on that. And Lily, I wanted to ask you, I wanted to also say that as Goz has mentioned several times, and he has taught our listeners, is those implants are neutralized by exactly what we've been saying all along, this grounding and centering. We'll get a little bit more into some techniques for grounding and centering in just a little while. But Lily, did you have anything else to add on the astral tags and implants?
No, that sounds good.
Okay. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about on the DNA?
Goz can talk a lot more on DNA.
And we did cover it. I'll just run through it real quick. We basically want to unlock our DNA rather than activate it. And so that's pretty much it. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any other comments about that. Now,
I'll have another comment because a lot of people with their program, when they're going to process this information mentally, what they are going to be leaning towards is that DNA activation. They're going to do is because we said that, you don't want to activate it, DNA, so they're going to look for some other program that does the activation, but is not named activation.
Oh, yeah, now that we've called it out, they're going to try and twist this information now. They're going to try and find a way to use unlock to actually just sort of disguise it so it can actually activate it. Because if you activate your DNA, what's actually going to happen is that's like a reboot of the computer program. It's like an upgrade, it's like getting the latest version of Skype, sort of upgrade. They're upgrading all the algorithms and the coding for the DNA and to basically run your genetics and that part of your existence from an unconscious sense because the DNA is keeping that unconscious for a start. And so what that's doing, it's just running a new program. It's just an upgrade, a reboot of an old program to a new program. So that's what the trick is behind this DNA activation. So you want to unlock it. And yes, they will try to spin now the unlock thing. So yeah, that's a good point there, Lily.
Guys,
yes, they're going to right away. There's going to be somebody in a few days or maybe tomorrow.
Maybe
come
in
up
a minute,
say,
an hour.
Another shill from Bondi will come out and basically, start doing a full schmoozle on it.
Yeah, we have to call it out because we have a lot of that people twisting the Earth timeline into their matrix positive timeline left and right. Every day there is something new, some new twist somewhere. The programs right now are getting upgraded with these people that run these programs. I mean, it's like boom, boom, it's done, and they're out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, what would you say, do we still have, I think we just lost Goz. He'll be right back. What would you say that we could do, though, for somebody who has done all this activation of their DNA for the past 20 years, concentrating? Hi, welcome back, Goz. My question is, for people who have been concentrating on activating their DNA, what would you suggest that they do to reverse that or to get back down to this organic connection?
What I will say, what I will say, and then just let go of all of it. There is some people that are going to say, oh, I've done this for 20 years. It's been keeping me afloat for 20 years or 30 years or 40 years of my life. I've been doing the new age stuff for, there's people that told me, well, I've been going to workshops and working with guardians for, 15 years of my life. How can I drop all that? Drop all of it.
Yes, I actually wrote an article on N5D about why you want to unlearn everything that you've learned so far. I mean, really what happens is they're very, very clever at confusing and twisting everything. And so you can read and read and read and study and read, and you're just going to get confused. And, just about a month ago, once I finally, really understood what you guys were talking about, and I grounded and centered and I let Mother Earth just take it all away from me, I finally said, you know what, everybody just needs to stop right now what they're doing and unlearn everything they know. And it's it's like this huge cloud, this heaviness was just lifted off my shoulders, and all of a sudden I just knew what was happening. And I knew that, I saw through the deception, and it just makes everything, it's like the veil. That's exactly what it is. It's like the veil lifting when you just let all that stuff go.
Yeah, and then what you're
doing is you letting all those programs, you basically just letting them go. You're not operating from your mind anymore. And you can probably testify to this, Michelle, that all you do is you set intention, and then all of a sudden you feel this freedom. And all it took is that little feeling, that spark of life that is within you. And once you get into that, then and you set the intention of letting go of all these programs, then the more you let go, the more you will feel that life that is within you, within your body.
Mm-hmm. And another way to integrate your mind with the rest of your sort of whole body intelligence, like your center, so to speak, is to check, if there's information with your mind, but you need to work out some critical discernment, because the mind is still, a part of, the whole arsenal of sort of energy centers, chakras that we have. And what you do is that if you've got questions with your mind, well, then feel them with your body, okay, and use the pendulum test to find out the answer. Actually ask your center. You ask yourself for the answers. You check all the external information around you with your own technology, your own body. Use yourself as your own technology, as your own interface conduit. And, the sooner more people start centering, okay, you can do a deep center activation with the earth and the sun and run that all through your body, and that's all well and good, and I can get onto that another time. But with this body pendulum stuff, when you've got questions, you develop that, and you notice the difference of when you're in your mind, and you notice the difference of when you're in your body, when you're getting your pendulum sort of results. That's the best technology on the planet. Like, I can't put it any more simpler, I don't think. It's so simple. And all you've got to do is spend the time doing it with yourself.
That's
and checking
true.
all information. And until a whole heap of people do that, and they'll start pulling all the same information, well, that's when the real conscious revolution will happen. That's when the real sort of the big sort of DNA locking, on a more of a mass sort of 100 monkeys sort of collective sort of sense will actually happen. But the people have got to do the work and start trusting in themselves again. And it was like you were told before, oh, yeah, you can't trust in your intuition. Yeah, that's when you're in your mind detached from your body. But when you're in your center, you can trust that 100%. So that's what really self-belief is all about, is belief in your center, because your center is connected to the universal battery source in the first place, the organic internal creation source. So that's an endless battery, like as Lily was saying earlier. So it's like, and it's so simple as it's meant to be. And these Dracos have basically worked all sorts of wonders, with the mind and, and separation sort of mechanics into separating your genetics and the DNA coding that either sort of turns on and turns off those things. Well, they've run really quite an incredible complex sort of agenda to basically keep people on a general sort of level of sort of DNA sort of that is unlocked, so they can basically exist to a certain point in the physical. And then you have all of these other people of royal bloodlines and stuff like that who are just given a little bit more, or a few psychic tricks, or taught out a remote view or trace or stuff like that. So then they think they've got more of the conscious reality, but a lot of that is all DNA activation too, because they know how to basically trick you and Pied Piper you sort of in all sorts of places out into the astral, where really the astral is really only significant, as I said, the invisible parts of our physical reality are only become significant once you can integrate it with the physical reality. Otherwise, it's just all fiction in organic dreamland.
Mm-hmm. And so really, I have this vision, okay, and this might help in trying to understand. It's the words that are limiting us. The word activation is limiting us because it was immediately twisted around. I mean, if they hadn't twisted it, we would be talking about DNA activation. And in the sense that, imagine that, you have this lock, this actual lock on your DNA, and that's restricting you, and it's actually binding something to your DNA that's like an overlay, which is like a matrix. And unlocking would be like pulling that hasp down, taking the lock off, and it unfolding back to its natural state before that overlay was put on it. It kind of unfolds and unflowers, which is what would allow us to have full body healing with the earth. It would trigger the earth to, again, send the earth sending through source the ability for our cells in our body to regenerate instead of allowing the telomere, which is like the lock, which makes our cells age. It makes our bodies age.
Yep.
So unlocking would be taking that telomere overlay off, and and that's what would allow this physical body, when this physical body was created, it would allow it to live for hundreds or even thousands of years as a vehicle that we would come into, and not be when somebody's ready to die, we would say, okay, well, I'll see you soon. It's not like we would have this grief and this horrible time about losing people in our life, because they would have been here with us for 1,000 years and they're ready to go to another planet or to do something else, and they just let their body go. And we know, we remember, now we can remember that.
It's because you're already conscious of that part of reality while you're in the living sort of biological reality as you are here, so you don't panic about it, because it's like, it's only fear of the unknown, that basically creates those things. So once things are made conscious, and there's no fear of that sort of process anymore, because you know what's going on, so you don't worry about it. That's kind of on that simple logic level.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the physical body at this time is what gives us that connection. And if they can't, the Dracos and the Anunnaki and the Greys and all of those beings that are working together for the Draco system, if they can't incarnate into a body, let's talk a little bit about some of the avenues that they're using to try to pull people out of their body and replace a part of themselves into that body. I know that, people have had near-death experiences, and maybe at the last minute, I just actually had a life coaching session where I talked to a lady where at the last minute she was having a head-on collision with a truck. And she heard a voice in the car that said, "You will die now, and you will come out of your body." And she said, "No," as loud as she could. And instantly,
awesome.
Instantly, her car moved and just swerved around the truck. So really, the human body right now is one of the biggest assets, especially if you have more of a bloodline that has been unmixed with the least number of people on the planet, which is what the royals do, to keep the bodies so they can, put a part of themselves into that body. Tell me a little bit about that, and about if walk-ins could be a part of that, or if their walk-ins are just really bringing more parts of your past lives, of your aspects of yourself, joining yourself in the body.
Oh, okay. This is a heck of a rabbit hole, this one. You go first, Lila.
Okay. Well, walk-ins. I can be really short about that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. A walk-in is usually when you read about experiences that people had with them, as they call themselves, walk-ins. There is going to be one common theme, sort of, with them, that they've been prepared for it from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them would be abducted. A lot of them would spend a lot of time in astral. A lot of them would also have trauma in their childhood.
Mm-hmm. So they have a tag.
What is happening is that the body is prepared little by little by little for the being, the astral being, to take over, to step in. So basically, that body, the soul that's occupying that body, actually moves out of it slowly while astral beings
taken over.
Sort of blends with it, or and basically takes over the body. Because for an astral being that is not incarnated and be fully present here, they need a body, okay? Because they can't show up here through stargates. So they basically, these people that are walk-ins, their soul sort of goes in the way background, and their spirit is just becoming the battery. Their life force within their body becomes the battery. This is basically a possession.
Mm-hmm.
This is a possession by a being.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people are walk-ins, but that's okay. We have the ability right now to get rid of them. They're still in there somewhere, and they can pull themselves back in. It's going to require a lot of work, but they can do that because their body, it's still their body, it's still their genetics. But all walk-ins are, that's basically possessed by an astral being.
Well, if you have a walk-in that walks in and walks out, that can happen as well. When you're really ungrounded and you're, let's say you're drunk, you're doing drugs or whatever, that part of you can come out, and all of a sudden you know somebody that's drunk, and then all of a sudden things turn really strange, and it's like they're not even themselves.
Well, that's the reason why
you're just opening yourself up for that to happen. Yeah. But so let's say that once
just on that point, Michelle, there's a reason why they called hard liquor spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you the basic example for that, when people get taken over when they've had too much to drink, and there's lots of entities hanging around bars and pubs and things like that. Yeah, but there's a reason why it's called spirits. Anyway, I just thought I'd add that.
Well, and so let's say that, I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. Let's say that you have this walk-in, and I just lost my whole train of thought. I'll think of it in a minute.
All right, I'll say that it's not just one astral being sometimes. Some people are prepared very hard from a young age to be a sort of vehicle for many astral beings.
Well, that's what we were, see, guys, listen, everyone, listen. That is exactly what the human body is harvested and prepared for. I mean, that's what we were created, this version of this body is what we were created for. Our original spirits got trapped in the bodies, and we are organic, and so we're the only ones that can incarnate that way. Okay, so what I was going to ask is that once you clear yourself of all the other beings that are hanging around, and which took me my whole life to even get to the understanding that needed to happen, then Lily and Goz, I was wondering if part of this organic regeneration is making the space and expanding yourself to be able to bring in the other aspects of yourself that are happening at the same time in parallel lives that need healing, that need, that were take, let's say they were killed instantly, being burned at the stake, and they have all that negative energy that you're carrying as well. Isn't that kind of a way to look at that? If you have these other beings within you, how are you going to clear and expand the rest of yourself?
Well, yeah, you've got to clear those caudal knots. If it's early childhood or incidents like that, yeah, those cords have got to be cleared, just to put it in a very simple sort of way. That's nothing to do with karma or anything silly like that. It's just about the fact that there is an energetic discord, and there's like a friction point to the point where, the energy has become stagnant and locked up and it can't flow. So, yeah, you need to sort of revisit that within your own astral sphere, which is, basically a record of your holographic experience, and it also comes with everything else that you felt and sensed at the time, whether it was pain or joy or, the feeling, whether on your skin or this happened. It's not just like a visual thing, but that's how you do. That's what regression is for, is to clear those sort of knots. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that psychiatry and psychotherapy and psychology are not equipped to deal with this aspect of the reality. Conversely, they're actually taught to basically negate this side of the reality in its fundamental sense. In particular, psychiatry just throws drugs to try and sort of smash that, and to put it to the side. And if anything, it actually creates more problems with possession and all those sorts of things because they're not addressed properly. And so that's the thing, when that side of the reality is sort of considered, fiction and, craziness in itself, yet it's these people that actually have these connections, to ancestors and spirits and stuff like that. They're the people that are actually there to heal these aspects for the actual tribe when we're tribal people. And those people are our healers, and we throw them in psychiatric sort of wards and places like that. And it's very sad, the fact that it's so misunderstood, that this is deliberately done on purpose by the Dracos so that we cannot see into these parts of the reality. We're told it's all craziness, it's all fiction. So that's all changing.
It is.
This has to be. It is. It has to become more, wide common spread.
Let's talk about this change, Goz and Lily. Let's talk about this hyper-acceleration. Lily, you mentioned it on the last show that you did, and I was wondering if you would please repeat briefly what this is about the year 2017 and how we are seeing in our own realities the fact that we are rapidly accelerating through what, we're actually hitting the future a lot quicker than we thought we would.
Yes. Even like 6-8 months ago, I still thought that, we are not going to see much of a change with astral levels until about 2017. But once 2015 came, and that just changed, and I think it's part of planet's plan to sort of this also caught the Dracos off guard in a way, because they still sort of had this time, they thought, and then all of a sudden everything like in December changed, and they started working again on CERN, and then it just started rolling like crazy. And this is because I think it's because the astral levels, when I was talking about this, and it was my probably like first or second interview that I did, what I was saying that what's going to happen in 2017, it is really when the Earth's timeline will be really stable and the energetics of the planet will be strong. And this is when the astral levels will start to sort of disassemble. And when that process starts, that means that we're going to have some astral levels and collectives that are on astral timelines will start defecting and trying to move into Earth's timeline. And I give also a process of that as like a healing process, you know, and that process for a few groups, and now we just talk about in Lil, you know, there's beings and collectives that already started to defect in astral timelines. When that happens, it creates a lot of chaos in astral timelines, and we will see that, you know, reflecting here on the planet. There's a lot of sort of groups on the planet that are connected to the astral control group. They're confused themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, and same with other people, you know, other groups. And this is because some of these groups started to defect. And this is the real healing. They can step into planetary timeline, and all that we talk about that they will start doing here, and how to center, how to come into the planet and become part of this planet. And it's a process. And this is what have started and rolling really fast in 2015. And so that's why I called a 2015 a new 2017. It's because that the astral timelines are in chaos right now.
So it's
only going to get worse.
Yeah. It's anyone's guess as to what specific sort of time calendar certain things will happen by, because it all depends on us, really.
Oh, that's right. It's right. Every person that centers and grounds and cleanses themselves and starves the astral beings, especially those of us who are awake early, we have the most energy to be sucked, you know, dry, and we have the most tags on us to try to keep us from, you know, alerting everyone else. And so, I mean, most of us that are the ones that are writing the articles and doing the shows, that we've been successful in keeping ourselves every minute that we're awake and conscious, keeping ourselves aware of when we could be triggered or when someone around us can be triggered. It's a conscious thing you have to work on all the time. And it's in order to, because the more one person does it, let me tell you, it makes such a huge difference. That's why they're freaking out. And that's why that's why they had to. That's why we have already shifted to 2017 timeline, because they started accelerating their efforts, and this is a polarity and duality environment. So we're offsetting that as quickly as they can, quickly or quicker than they can run programs to do something about it.
Yeah, they're trying to catch up, but they can't.
Because if you center your energetic intent. See, as I was saying before, that's orgone, that's organic energy. Now, where you focus that energetic intent, that energetic charge, you know, behind your intent with your actions, with where you put your focus to where that energy goes to, that's far more powerful. And especially when you're using your body as a conduit as well, because you're centering and using all of your body, and it's not just a mind-directed thing, that's far more powerful than any of this sort of astral energy. And the more people that are doing that and creating cords amongst themselves with their intent and with what they do, it's very, very powerful stuff, and it's very, very simple, and it's not meant to be a huge, complex thing to do. And at the same time, I'm not saying it's just this big magical cure-all, because it's like anything in life. You know, we have to spend time in the office sort of focusing on things before, you know, we can sort of, you know how to do it and facilitate those things properly. It goes with anything, but there's a certain joy of that as well. You know, it's not, It shouldn't just be thought of as a chore and hard work, because when it's enjoyable, nothing about what you are.
It's great to know what's going on finally.
Being fully alive is an incredible thing. It's an incredible feeling.
As a Funkadelic song once said, you know, it's a joyful process, you know. It's like,
absolutely.
It can be that by all means, despite all this sort of mess and shit and, you know, a lot of horrible stuff's happened on the planet, you know. Well, but the thing is that it just is what it is, and it can only move on from there, as it does, because the whole reality is a constantly changing thing. Creation is happening in every single moment, so nothing is absolute and stays the same anyway. And, you know, we don't have a fixed point of dual reality, you know, so it's...
And this for internal source energy is formless. So it's not a mathematical structure like, you know, we had a mathematical structure for ascension. We had a date and all of that stuff because it's mathematical structure, because inorganic energy is created in that way. But in here, we are sort of floating with the energy. The more we expand that internal source creation energy within us, the bigger it gets and the faster than it takes us. And, you know, the one beautiful surprise that ever since we started talking about this with Goz is that how many people are coming out and saying, you know, I felt to do the grounding and do the centering, you know, and I've been doing it for a few years now or for a long time now. I just didn't know what I was doing mentally, but we were doing it. So it's not just us or a few people here and there. There's quite a few people around the planet that have been doing that without understanding mentally what they were doing. So, you know, Earth is working in sort of this way where it was all hidden. Like I said, you know, Earth had a really good poker face on, and then she just put those cards out, and we were part of it, poker face as well. And now we're here and saying, okay, we are powerful within this planet, and this is our planet, and she is powerful, and for that we are powerful. And by being one with the planet, she is, the whole power of this planet is within each individual because we're one with her. So you have the whole planet backing you up in this, you know, in your life force. So for that, it is unlimited. So it is very empowering. And the reason you, like you said...
So what you want to say now is you want to say to yourself, is to where are you going to put your energy? Are you going to make choices in your life that continue to create more friction, that generates energy to feed these sort of the matrix astral grids? Or are you going to make choices with your life and how you live to basically not do that and just basically deal with what's in front of you, as we all can, and get by in a pretty sort of simple way? And so this is the thing. It comes down to a questioning of the reality in front of you. Well, what's worth sort of giving your energy to that's going to take your life force away and not replenish it, in the sense of projecting it to an astral grid? You know, it's an activity that's all it really does. Or are you going to basically do things that are just going to causally more promote an organic environment for everyone to basically communicate and become existential with? And look, there's a lot of people doing all the right things already on the planet in an unconscious, non-mental sort of way.
Exactly. There's so many people
gradually more integrated.
They don't even know anything about. They didn't go down any spiritual, metaphysical paths. They're just enjoying Mother Nature and enjoying life, and just, you know, through love. And I guess, you know, is the best way to describe it. But I do want to share a quick story about a lady who I just did another life coaching session on, that happens to have been a psychic for the past 20 years. And it's very interesting because I'm also writing an article about psychics and how to become your own psychic, and why you want to become your own psychic by going within and getting that information directly from yourself. But what happened is she's actually... She was actually worried about connecting with the other side, you know. The astral, the Archangel Michael, and all that. And she was really having to rethink everything that she had been doing for the last 20 years. And those of us who have been, you know, awake for a while and have fallen, you know, into either a New Age type trap or even the spirituality Like you said, ever since 2012, when they could no longer use the looking glass to look into the future and then go back and change a timeline, they would copy what we were doing and then start to twist it. But what she found is she's trying to figure out, what is she going to do now that she's heard, my information on N5D and on how to exit the matrix coupled with your information. And so I asked her what she did, and she actually was able to see the dark energy spots as a psychic medium. She also was working with beings that were doing the healings with her. And I suggested that she start promoting the fact that she dissolves, astral implants, because that's really what she's doing. That's all astral implants are, is energy. So I found that interesting. And then another quick thing I wanted to share about Mother Nature is that there's a co-host that I'm going to have on. I'm not going to announce her name right now, but she's a co-host of a radio show that even when I was awakening, I was listening to. And she came across our information, and she was so ecstatic because she had been debilitated. She couldn't walk. She for like 20 years was like an athletic person and ran all the time. And then all of a sudden, within the last year, I don't know how long ago, her hip was hurting her so bad she couldn't hardly even get up and walk to the bathroom. She couldn't drag herself outside. But one day after she heard about, grounding and centering, it's so simple, but we forget these things because we're triggered to forget. She went outside and she says, all right, this is it. I'm either going to start running right now in such debilitating pain I may pass out and die, or Mother Nature, you need to heal me. You need to heal me. And she connected with her and she said, please heal me. I can't live like this. She started jogging, and within about 2 minutes, she was completely healed.
Wow.
So the connection and the request, the connection with Mother Nature right now is fascinating. I'm getting so many people giving me stories of it changing everything. And that is just how powerful she is. Folks, this is what we're here to do. This is what we're doing.
You are with your intent. Yeah. If you're the more present you are with your intent, and you really, really feel it from within all your bones. And I'm not talking about like feel it like as in heart center sort of feeling, CENTER, not RE on the end, because that's more of a sort of a passion center, rather than feeling something with the whole of your body, with all of your soul, not all of your heart, all of your soul, okay? And you really want that to happen. And you connect with the present. Well, that's how powerful it can be.
Awesome.
And the planet supports it.
Yeah.
And the planet herself, through all this activation since end of 2012, she has been expanding this energy. It is available to us. So all we have to do, and just like you said, Michelle, it's very simple, but you have to trust that energy within you. Because if you're alive, you have that energy within you. Just that. You breathing, walking, or even if you are not walking, if you're breathing and you're alive and you're warm, you got the energy, the earth energy within you. Connect to it.
Well, we're doing something completely new here. We're doing what we were before we were tampered with, but then we're also keeping parts of what was created by them, but we're cleansing it and changing the polarity of it. So I wanted to get into an existential type discussion on this. Really, what we're doing every day is we're peeling off layers of this matrix, and we're wondering just how far down this goes. And we're trying to remember actually what the organic Earth matrix looks like, the actual light creation of having a physical body on a planet and having an ecosystem around it. So do you have any comments as to that?
I do. I've got something to discern there further, Michelle, because you were talking about human beings and enslavement and all that sort of thing. Well, rabbit hole goes just a little bit deeper there in the sense of, okay, if we look at just specifically Homo sapiens, well, the truth about Homo sapiens is that there was a first seeding of Homo sapiens and there was also a second seeding of Homo sapiens, okay? And we're not taught that in any of our histories or religious information or spiritual information, okay? That one's really sort of kept well hidden, the second seeding stuff. And the Urantia book, which is a bit of a CIA disinformation sort of thing, it goes back to Tavistock, all that sort of thing. But there's a lot of truth in there that has been all disinfoed up. But that actually does talk about the second seedings, one of the few places you can actually find any sort of externalised written information on it. And why I'm going into this is that the Enki, first Homo sapien humans, they were created roughly 100,000 years ago, and he created them for the purpose of organic regeneration, okay? And because the thing is with the Anunnaki, you're looking at sort of Anu and Enlil as kind of like the imperialist sort of faction of those guys. You could say that those guys were not sort of, organic sort of soul regeneration minded, where sort of like the Ishtar and the Enki sort of faction of Anunnaki were all about it, the same as the original reptilian dragon races that came along before the Anunnaki and who were doing organic soul regeneration through their Cro-Magnons, okay? And so, they were the ones who created, really the first human form to be able to sort of do that on Earth. And so this is the thing. And then coming back to the Homo sapiens, though, and then you've got 50,000 years ago, after the flood, that basically Enlil, engineered, and he intended to wipe out, all the first Homo sapien seedings and start again. And you get the Noah's Ark sort of thing, which is basically trying to save everything of what's on the sort of planet. And Noah's a Magyar himself, and his wife was a Moor, and they basically saved as many types of the first Homo sapien seeding races as they could, and that sort of accounted for about roughly 10% of the types of beings, first Homo sapien seedings that they had. But the thing is, even with the flood, 50% of the first Homo sapien seedings actually survived anyway, despite the whole Noah thing and everything. And so they had a second seeding after the flood, and that second seeding was all Enlil Draco creations, okay? So the thing is that there's a difference here in consciousness between the Draco creations in the Adams and Eves over the sort of history and the Enki and Ishtar sort of creations, in the sense of all the Draco creations have been done for empirical purposes, okay? Literally to breed humans and animals and things, anything possible together, to literally for war purposes, for harvesting purposes, for anything but organic regeneration, to mine gold, to do this, to do that, that's the whole consciousness of a Draco, because the Draco itself, when the Draco was first created, the Draco doesn't have a centre, okay? And it's the same with those Maldek created, Draco created human being lines that were actually created with extra sort of copper reptilian shapeshifting and grey genes. It's known as the CCR5 anomaly here on Earth now, because they needed a much tougher physical structure to exist on inorganic sort of, huge density planets like Maldek at the time, and all these other places that, they sort of colonise in the universe, because the Earth and the Sun are the only two planets that are organic, which is incredulous to sort of, come to this sort of realisation and understanding. Because all those planets that the Dracos colonised, from basically mixing all of these different animals and everything that they could here on Earth, and then colonising the universe with it and creating their own system and reality, well, that's all the inorganic planets out there. And they weren't meant to do that. The whole thing is that these original sort of reptilian and Anunnaki great races are all coming here to do organic regeneration on Earth. And you've got a certain consciousness that's basically gone, no, we don't want to do that. We still want to be kids and just, live in our own Disneyland dreamland, do whatever the heck we want. So that's the difference when it comes down to the first and the second Homo sapien seedings, in the sense of the consciousness behind the creations of those specific humans. So I'm saying this is because not all of the human lines were made just to be used as slaves, okay? So it's actually good to know that in our birthright, organic regeneration is something that a lot of us and a lot of the genetics on the planet, especially the first Homo sapiens seeding types, and even the Ishtar created Homo erectus before that, were created for organic soul regeneration. So we don't have to feel like we're this guilty original sin sort of thing, because, that did happen with the second Homo sapiens seedings, okay, of the Dracos. But it didn't happen with all. And today it's a mishmash of 60% second seedings and 40% first seedings. And at the end of the day, you're all the same souls here doing organic regeneration, so it doesn't really matter what you've got to heal within your bloodlines and all the rest of it, because everyone's got to do the same thing here, because the earth is a combined collective mess that it's come to. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day of how you got here to be how you are now. You have the power in your own epigenetic sort of consciousness, to take charge of things and fix things in the here and now for yourself. And you don't have to be a victim to this hereditary, this ancestry.
Yes.
This whole genetic belief that your genes control absolutely everything. It's actually your consciousness driving the bus, and your centering is the determinant on that, and that's what organic soul regeneration is about. So that's a big breakthrough. Yeah,
Lily. Really, the second part of that question is that you've described that the astral realm is part of the light creation, and if we're clearing up the astral realm, can we take these bodies and can we actually use that creation as something pleasurable, or is that going to actually be all dissolved? Or how is it that we are going to exist? What is the new way that we're going to exist that is better than the way we used to exist? I'll put it that way.
Because as we heal ourselves and we heal our DNA in a way, getting rid of the coding, as we do that, we'll bring all of those levels of our existence, especially for those souls that did come here for regenesis. They came through astral level. So this is the intent of this planet, to heal all that. What we're going to do is to heal the planetary mental level, which is astral level. And on a personal level, it's your mind. Once you heal that, you heal yourself, then collectively we will heal all that. And we will, like Goz were explaining, we will have all of those realities. We could see into them, and we will be aware of it.
You got conscious connection of them now,
You'll get conscious connection.
I think there might be a little confusion out there about light. Okay.
Well,
so light
then
creation.
you have
physical creation, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we have on the planet 66% of the inorganic light creation. Well, the light can be healed when it's in harmony. So this is the whole process that's here on the planet that we're supposed to do. This is what we're doing right now on a planetary timeline. We are healing the light creation. What had happened with astral levels is because there's entities in there that wanted to sort of do the opposite and zombify us and create us as sort of a battery and use this planet as a battery. So now what we have this artificial intelligence entities, they're fully inorganic. And so there is part of you, for those people that have the soul that came to do biogenesis on the planet, there is part of them that is in astral level, but there is also this other entities that are created there. And so this is also going back to that healing. And some people say, well, there's entities within me, and then there is, there's part of me. There is part of you that is in astral level.
Mm-hmm.
This is your soul, especially if your soul came through an astral level. And so what you do is you embody your soul, and you heal it through your spirit, through your planetary spirit that is given to you into your body. And your body has 33% of that spirit frequency, organic frequency within itself. So you bring your inorganic soul into the body that is 1/3 organic, and this is how the process of healing that soul happens. And a lot of people say, well, how do tags and what is entities? Your soul is not a separate entity, but let's say an archangel or an angel or somebody, that's a separate entity. That's not you. So that's, if that entity is trying to come through you, then they're possessing you. But there's also your soul that is within you. So
it's just like having someone handcuff you on an invisible level, and yet you can't see it mm-hmm. unless you're tapped into that invisible level as well.
Right.
Okay.
And we mentally really, that's really a mental question I asked, because it's really hard for us to understand exactly what we're doing. I mean, all we really need to do is to stay with Mother Earth, and she handles most of it, and we have to be conscious of our thoughts and conscious of where we're giving our energy. There's still work to do, but, if it's all too confusing for you, really, that we always talk about those basics. And,
I do want to add to that, mm-hmm. Michelle, because
yes, please.
It is very important. I know, and especially like this program, most people that listen to it, they'll, this is the type of person that the typical listener would be somebody who's really familiar with New Age and what's, with all the spiritual teachings and all of that stuff, and a lot of our New Age teachings and spiritual teachings and religions have been about that you are not your body, and you are not, you are not your human body. You are a soul that is experiencing a human body and human incarnation here. And so, and a lot of it, there's also another layer to it, or you're Pleiadian, or you're Arcturian, or you're this soul, or you're that soul.
Because they're saying that because they want you to project your energy towards that, their inorganic creation, because like all those beings you're just saying, Arcturians, this, that, and the other, they're all Draco hybrids anyway. And they're saying that that's where your origin is from. But no, once you're on Earth and you're doing organic regeneration and you do it, you become an Earth soul. And they say also not to be of the Earth. Well, sorry, look where you are. Where do you think you've come from? It's like...
Who given you this life? Given you this body?
And then they're trying to say that, okay, you came from Pleiades and this, that, and the other. Well, before the 56 BC incident, like all these Dracos were physical on the planet with us, and everyone, there was no DNA, to basically lock up parts of our consciousness, so everyone could see into the real reality. And this is the thing, even when they created duality 6,000 years ago, when the Sumerian Magyar affinity was sort of hijacked by the Maldek sort of shape-shifting imposter humans, it took a long time for them to be able to still control and hijack and take over all the other Earthlings, both first Homo sapiens seeding and second Homo sapiens seeding. Because a lot of the second Homo sapiens seedings ends up to be good people anyway, Won't go into the who's and what's at the moment, but this is the whole thing. So it's like it wasn't until these Maldek imposters come along, then they created duality when they turned all the Sumerian Magyar sort of whole nature processes, that symbol identifications, into split, separate sort of duality, sort of God, goddess, sort of light, dark, masculine, and feminine sort of separations, to then be worshipped, as these God, goddess sort of icons, to project sort of and fight over, this friction energy, towards, that what would have been the astral layer of that reality at the time. But really there was no sort of astral reality because there was no sort of DNA separation back then, okay? It just would have fed more of that part of the reality. But it wasn't until they were able to do the reverse polarization of the duality in 56 BC and then do the whole 56 BC incident where they actually hardwired all the DNA of everything living on the actual surface of the planet. Humans and the planet is sort of that factory of life Kabbalistic thing. But the thing is that DNA coding and that whole Kabbalistic thing as well, that's all the spell, that coding. And underneath that coding is still the biocells of the organic life. And you can connect with centering to that actually part of your reality beneath the DNA coding. And that's what undoes it all, ultimately. And so the astral was really created in its, full, whole sort of invisible sense since the 56 BC incident, when basically humans have been basically cut off from that side of the reality. And then the Earth actually had to tilt in order to stop them doing a full grand mal, grand auto theft of the Earth's sort of energy, sort of, and yeah. Oh, but if the Earth didn't shift, we would have all been toast a long time ago. Yeah.
So we would have turned to space dust.
Oh yeah, we just we'd all be in just a perpetual.
And that's what they've done to many planets around the universe.
Thriller music clip. Yeah.
Yeah, they've sucked the planet dry. All the life force from within the planet, suck it dry, and then move on to the next one.
But really, they don't have any other choice because as they have free will, and they were, a being that was part of Source, and they decided that they would be the negative aspect, the part that moves the farthest away from Source. But I think they really made a mistake, and now they're out sucking up, all the energy that they can just to survive, and got so confused and lost in their own selves and their ego and their power and all that they some of them may even turn to space dust rather than say, okay, I give up. I'm going to go ahead and go with the planet and go back and be returned to Source and be reconstituted into a different form of energy that way.
Yes, and this is why they, like you said, they're really desperate for energy when the being is want to keep going. So this is why they come up with all these programs that are really clever, like we were just talking about how, a people here in their human body, and all they can, program to do and think about is that they say they're from another planet, that they're alien here. And through that, they project to that, they worship that. They worship them. They're part of them that is inorganic because that sucks the energy out of your human body when you do that. So look at how many teachings we have. Oh, you're this group, you're that group. And it's just getting so clever, and they are getting, so desperate that they're coming up with all these programs. And we have so many programs that really just want to suck this energy out of human beings. So when you're here on this planet and you're here to have a human experience, even if it's that, then, you're here for a reason, to be human, then become human. And I see this right now because there's a lot of desperation and a lot of sadness within some of those programs, because as astral timelines are sort of collapsing and in a lot of chaos, I see this in a lot of spiritual teachings, and a lot of these people that waited for this ascension or waited for their soul family to show up and pick them up and to save them and all of that stuff. I see a lot online, and I see a lot of those people are so sad and hate themselves for being here so much, to the point that some of these people are close to be suicidal, because it's been since 2012, it's been good 2 years, going on the third year, and nothing happened. They're still here. How many people in spiritual community we have that's been waiting for this ascension, and now they're so desperate and so sad that they are suicidal. And that only works. And this is how this program.
Well, that's also part of the program too.
It's also part of the program that we fail to activate the portals and suck you and kill you here, kill your human body and use you as an energy source while you're still here. And now you do it yourself. You commit to
exactly. And I have to say, when I first started this show, the Cosmic Awakening show, I had a co-host, Larry Locken, and we did a lot of connecting with our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters, especially, there's tons of Pleiadian groups that Larry is in. And what's happening is we are realizing as we are connecting with all of those parts and aspects of ourselves that have had those experiences on the other planets. And they know that we would do this. They knew that we would come together in groups and support each other and keep us from, as we look around on this planet, it's just it's too hard for some of these people when they realize extraterrestrial heritage. And so what the Dracos did is turn this whole extraterrestrial thing now to where, they're going to have this disclosure and all that so they can bring in some false invasion or a false prophet. Maybe all of that timeline has been completely erased.
All they've got to do is bring in their own hybrids.
Finish up is, yeah, exactly. Is we can it's wonderful to talk about, these. It's a way to connect with yourself, to talk about these extraterrestrial races that we were in the past and in future lives, because that's part of us. But the trick is, like you've been saying, and I wrote an article that will be published on N5D tonight about the different some of the extraterrestrial races that have been involved in the planet. And at the end of the article, it basically says, but you are an Earthling. And you know what? It took me a very long time to come to that. Larry and I had a friend named Sarah that, she knew that she had a connection with us. They remembered about the Orion Wars. They started remembering about being, captain of spaceships, blowing shit up and not knowing any better and realizing, you realize after I'm going to go ahead and use the word time, because even though it's all happening at once, we are experiencing it in a linear way. You realize and you learn that you can't just go out and fight as the light or whatever against the dark forces, because that's what they're feeding off of. So we came to this lifetime right now to bring all those experiences together, to heal them, to recognize them. Yes, it's okay to recognize that you feel Arcturian or Pleiadian. Some of us, like me, I have a connection with all of them. I had to go everywhere, so when I come to this lifetime, I'd be able to speak and communicate and understand and send out codes to all of those different races. So we can definitely acknowledge it, but right now, and I was there, I was talking to Fernando Valsa on my show last week, and both of us had the same experience about 2011 or 2010. We were on our knees screaming to the universe, I don't want to be here. Just get me off this planet, come down and pick me up. And that was like, thank goodness that didn't happen, because I love my body now, and I know why I'm here in the body, and I have accepted this is not only what I came to do, but to help other people realize that's really what we're here to do. So I wanted to, and go ahead, and does anybody else have a comment to finish up on that?
Yeah, just bottom line, you are here.
Yeah. And
you are here. Yes, we're here.
We're the ones we're waiting for.
There is so much life around us, yet people don't recognize this other life here because they want to be somewhere else so badly. And some people say, well, I'm locked in here, this, because I do talk about that quarantine, that organic layer of dark matter or dark energy that holds the astral levels locked in with within this planet. And a lot of people saying, I just want to break through it and go back home.
And that's all the programming I mentioned earlier, to get people to have disregard for this life and to think that, the astral, there's home, that's always home and I'll feel good there. And that's the programming. And so this is the effect of that programming being kinked.
When we unlock our DNA, we'll be able to visit. We'll be able to bilocate and visit those places again, won't we?
Well, you're already there.
Well, yes, but changing our...
You are here. Yeah, well, the thing is that you're already connected to that right here, right now. It's just that DNA coding just has to be
that's
just...
what I meant.
It is within you, because you are that multidimensional
at the same time. Yeah.
And you're that multidimensional being that is right here, brought all of it here to the planet. You just
how freaking exciting is that?
So imagine that. You will remember and know all your experiences, but you will live the life that Earth gives you.
For the time, for the time that you choose to be here after you've done what you needed to do, yes.
And as a multidimensional light being, you will experience all of that within your human body on the planet. Yeah. How cool is that?
Very.
Yeah. You get you're conscious of all of that invisibility part of your physicalness, and it's great.
It'll be awesome. Okay, so I'd like to talk about the techniques that they're using around the planet, just so we not focus on it, but so we can be aware of all of the earthquakes, all of the CERN, the HARP, and things like that. Even back, to drilling for oil and gas, the fracking. That's all part of the same program. That's why they, the oil and gas industry had to make us rely on that so they could justify keeping up the fracking industry to cause these shifts in the plates and everything. And so, Lily, you have some information on CERN recently that, we knew that they were going to be firing that up. And then also, let's talk a little bit about the various things that they've tried to do and what Earth is doing to keep, things from basically having to get so bad on the planet.
Yeah, so basically due to that tilt, they tried to realign Earth. So that disconnected the astral grids, because the astral grids stayed in the same place and the Earth physical grids moved. So that closed the stargates. So they've tried to right now they're throwing everything out there and using all of the tools that they have and see which one will work. So at the same time, they're creating all this, earthquakes and trying to do all this stuff to move the crust of the planet so it realigns back with the astral level. So basically, bring that 23.4 degree back to a 0 degree. So because if they do that, then they can flip the poles, and that would activate that another time loop. Because the time loop activation of the matrix, it goes with the pole shift as well. It flips the polarity. Okay, because like you looking at yin and yang sort of symbols. So when it flips, it's got the other side, it's got to flip.
Well, that's the thing. They planned, in 56 BC, that they'd be flipping from negative to positive timeline. This
right, and that's the positive timeline that they've reused the word positive now, twisted that. That's the positive timeline. Yes.
Yeah.
So, but the positive cannot be without the negative. So the negative is right there. Is just the opposite. So it's still, an extreme polarity. And a lot of New Age and all of that spiritual teachings, they won't admit to that. And they just in denial of it. So, but anyway, but CERN is, and what they used to have is all these pyramids where those pyramids are used because they're trapping the earth energy, organic energy, and sending it, this is how they harvested the actual planet through the pyramids. And so because the pyramids are misaligned, so what is happening now with CERN and HARP and all this other stuff, what they are creating is they're creating the artificial grid and artificial stargates through what they will on the like physical level.
Yeah. They're just microchipping the energy of the Earth in that sort of sense, in a physical way, the same as what they did with the pyramids. That's the HARP and the CERN and all that type of technology is,
modern pyramids.
Modern pyramids, as you said, yeah.
Sort of, they had to scramble and do because the pyramids were not useful anymore.
But the thing is that enough people centering together, forget this mass meditation mind thing, okay, despite the good intention behind it. If you get people centering together and directing their energy, and even using their own heart grids and stuff like that, and if you're of a certain genetic too, once you get into all that sort of nonsense, but there's a lot of truth about all that stuff because they created all the royal genetics and bloodlines as people that could be used as sort of as conduits in an interface energetic sense as the technology involved between all the earth energy and crystal energy and the microchipping and the sacred geometry involved with certain proportions of how all the woo-woo magic sort of works in that sense. So we as conduits ourselves, just with our intent, we can actually use all of that stuff against them and use their goods, and because we can operate it from our bodies. Now, that bit of knowledge, they certainly do not want you to know that sort of stuff, let alone start to facilitate to work out how to use your body as the best technology,
And this is the thing, once you center and you want to do some damage, you don't need to go to CERN, you don't need to go to any ley line or anything. You just, whatever you are, boom.
You are the modem. You're the modem that's already plugged into everything. So yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you're part of the whole planet, and so working with the planet.
What did you just hear about update on CERN?
Well, it seems like whatever they were doing as of today, maybe last night, it's my feeling. Something went wrong there last night or this morning, and because or they either turned something off. I don't know what.
I think it's us on that next level doing some of these things because I have had such great energy and everything's been going fine for me. Last in 2012, I thought I was going to die. They were basically killing me. But until, when they took it up to 75% until it finally broke. But this time I've been so full of energy. But today about 2:00, I had to go to sleep. Usually when I go to sleep, I know I'm working on another energetic level. And I was out. I didn't even turn over for 2 hours. So, I think it's us on another level as well. It's very exciting to see this all unfold and to feel the difference in when energetic shifts happen and when we're doing things on other levels.
Yeah, the cat is out of the bag, like we said, and it's just very hard for them to work against it, because how many people on the planet are so aware of CERN? How many more people there are than on 2012, September 2012? So many more people are aware of that. And just that awareness is already screwing up everything for them. Just the awareness of it.
Well, that's how powerful consciousness is. Because once you're conscious of your whole reality, while you're sort of living here in the present moment, well, there's nothing more powerful than in existence,
Well, and as I just wanted to... Go ahead, Goz.
The physical is only a lower vibratory state if it's disconnected from all its parts, from disconnected in the sense of when it's made unconscious. So if you're unconscious,
DNA.
all the things that
So when your DNA is active, you're very, very low vibration.
Yeah, you're locked. You're locked into this physical denseness. So So listen, we've got about 10 minutes to keep.
The physical isn't dense once you're conscious of all those, sort of parts.
And really, that's the same thing. it's the same thing as what we know.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is the same thing as what we know, what we want to call ascension, but the word ascension was hijacked and twisted into the ascending to the fifth dimension. So, which is, an astral realm program. So it's really the same. It's really, we know these, and that's why we catch on to these twisted terms, because we know we're here to do that. But it's the wording and what they do to the words that catch us. So.
Well, look at the word ascension. I just realised it now. Okay, you break it down. Okay, look at the word typical and atypical and the meaning of them. Okay, well, ascension. Break it down. You've got sense, and then you've got scion at the end of it as well. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've got a before sense, scion. Okay. Now, what's that telling you straight away? Like, just in the spelling of the word, like it's. The English language is hideous.
It is.
When you break things down, but
it is.
Don't ask me about English language.
Oh, exactly, Lily. Yeah, you're doing really
what
well.
What a torture! This is my torture in this lifetime.
Well, I have a section on how to exit the matrix. One of my tabs is black magic spelling and etymology, and that's just to make people aware of how almost every word we say was created to give the energy to them, basically. So what we're doing when we speak from our truth is we're shifting that. We're changing the language. So
you cancel again with the words. You cancel the spells with your energetic intent. And if you're communicating from your center and you're sensing and feeling from your center, well, it's there again, the energetic charge behind the intent and what you do, despite the fact that you're using the spelled language. Well, that overrides it. That overrides the spell.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, that's why I like to say in the beginning of the show, and now I'm going to say that in the end now, that when you listen to our shows, when you listen to our talks, feel it through your center, because then you will process the true intention of what we are trying to say.
Awesome. Now, listen, I know, Lily, with your schedule, you've got about 10 minutes that you can stay, and I have 3 questions that we'll hit in the chat room, but before we go there, is there any other topic that you guys wanted to make sure that we hit tonight?
I think I'm good. I'm ready for some questions.
Well, I actually have one question before we get to, because, I'm the host, so I can do that. And Greg Prescott posted an article last night on N5D about Buzz Aldrin got on his Facebook page, on his Twitter and everything, and he has a shirt on, and he's standing in front of Stonehenge, and the shirt says, "Get your ass to Mars." Now, I know that there was a portion of, I think maybe one of the Terminator movies that had Schwarzenegger in the movie said, "Get your ass to Mars." But, I'm just wondering, is that tied into the fact that, do you think in the article says it might be possible that they're giving some kind of code, some kind of warning to the Dracos, to jump ship?
Oh yeah, like all that stuff is Masonic coding that basically tells different levels of the organisation. There's a different meaning of it actually.
Okay.
But it works the same with the politician speeches as well. Really knows a lot on that. And
yes, so it's very, very popular with the KGB. I know a little bit about it.
But I'll tell you right now, with that one, get yourself to Mars. Well, considering the fact that when you look at the 100,000-year war and landing times, what have you, on Mars was the Shems, the Shem Draco, and on Maldek was the Hathors, and they were fighting each other tooth and nail. And the whole Mars Red Planet thing and the connection to Egyptian stuff is, all the artifacts that NASA are allowing to be found by Andrew Basiago and people like that. It's playing a whole thing because they want to connect all of that to the Egyptian history to say, well, look, these are all your ancestors, this is responsible for your creation,
Well, so how did they get to Mars? I mean, does the jump room allow them to forego the? I mean, it's not on an actual spacecraft. I wouldn't think. I would think they would use the jump room at this point. How did
they got lots of different sort of ways of doing it. They can use Tesla gates. They can use jump rooms. There's all sorts of, you know. The Dracos have got that all sorted out, you know. But, you know, to colonize the universe, you've got to understand the mechanics of what's going on. You know,
but like in the chat room, you know, aren't they basically locked into the Earth? Isn't that part of the quarantine as well? The reason why they're going to be going to space dust from the astral realms because they can't get into a body here on Earth. Why would they want to go to Mars? Yeah, but there's one thing that a lot of people don't understand. Say, for instance, when you're going through gates, when they were first experimenting on all that, I found this out from a friend of mine who was actually used when he was an adolescent to go through these gates, because you can't go through with certain items of clothing on as well. There's all sorts of conditions, and it plays with your genetics doing all that sort of stuff, going through these jump rooms
genetics
and
very
all
important.
the gates. And this friend of mine, they used him, and the thing is that when you get older, they can't use adults to go through these gates. They can only use kids. Okay? So it gets down to this level of stuff. Like, they have to be so precise with their technology, and you can just imagine all the diabolical stuff they've gone through to find out the limitations of, you know, what they can and can't do through these modes of sort of gate jumping and sliding and all this sort of thing. And it does have an effect on genetics, and to the point where my friend actually, he's in his mid-50s now, and yet a few years back, he was getting his third set of teeth, okay? Now, apparently, I haven't censored this, but it makes sense to me in the sense I haven't checked it, but it does make sense. Apparently, when you turn 120, okay, like if we didn't have a DNA death program that makes us sort of die off early, that's a whole other show by itself. But apparently when you hit 120 and you're in your physical body, apparently that's when your third set of teeth come through. Now, I've got to verify this first, but it actually makes sense. It's just like my shape-shifting nonsense, you know. The same happened to my friend. All of a sudden, in his 50s, there he is. He's got a third set of teeth coming through. And it's making him...
It's all about bilocating.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is the thing. Like, when you're looking at all these technologies they're doing to sort of, you know, jump around the universe and do all this stuff, it has a detriment on your physicality. and like, as I said, the Maldek sort of Draco created human beings. Well, to create humans on other inorganic planets out there in the universe, well, they've got to sort of manipulate the genetics even further to adapt them to these inorganic environments. And so you've got some pretty, you know, whack sort of stuff going on as far as what the future consequential side effects of some of the genetic sort of manipulations going on. You know, so they can do all this stuff, and then when they basically then find out, oh, heck, look what happens if you sort of go through the gate and you've sort of got metal on your belt, on your trousers, and lots of things. And there's stories of, like, guys losing their ankles and their legs through these things, and some not good stuff. And even the fact my friend told me about, like, when they had all their sort of looking glass stuff happening, time travel technology, he was talking about how I can't verify this, but it kind of makes sense in the mentality of how these people are, that they put like a nuke or some sort of hydrogen bomb or something ridiculous like that through a gate in 2040 to basically come through and destroy something in 2046. So this is how screwed up in the head these people are, in the sense of, like, even their whole... But also their genetic breeding program. Like, they've had this genetic breeding program, like using Rothschild sort of bloodlines in particular, to create all these extra bloodlines, from politicians to rock stars to any sort of line of sort of changed name, hidden sort of mafia bloodlines created for specific sort of purposes. And then what they do is that work out certain genetics that they need from the human population, and then once they get that, they then give them to someone like Joseph Mengele to go and artificially inseminate all these seeds into all these different types of women, and then create all these super soldiers and politicians and rock stars and extra lines. And then what they do after that as well, they then use the time travel stuff to then take them, like say for some kids that got born in the 70s, they'll take some of them all the way back to the 30s or the 1890s, or, But the thing is that what's even more scary is that they've been doing it since the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
So in the 1930s stuff as well.
Yeah.
So the thing is they're creating all these extra lines and people. So everyone you see in the entertainment industry and anyone who's who in the Matrix and that whole Marvel Comics thing I was going on about, well, that's how they've been able to do all this sort of stuff and create all this sort of fiction, B-grade sort of Hollywood and real reality
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing going on here, because they've actually been that diabolical with genetics and also to create their uber much, to create the next human form that can sort of get through after the fact that the Earth's on its own timeline, and in time it seems they won't be able to reincarnate all the second-born through the pineal gland anymore, through the current model of human beings. So this is all the bother that the Dracos have been going through to basically keep on their sort of inorganic, detached from creation source, light creation reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's talk about a headache. It's like,
and on top of that, there's doubles of people that they make.
Yes.
oh, yeah.
They have had that technology for a long time underground.
Yeah, like presidents and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's just doubles of them, and it's a big mess.
It is, and they send the doubles back in time as well in the machines. Yeah, it's it's gonna be fascinating when we actually get all of that information, where we change our whole history books and we get to show exactly what happened and how we won.
when it comes to the timeline and stuff, it's something that your mental mind just can't get your head around.
Exactly.
How stuff works there. That's the thing where it's so crazy that you had each person. You'll be locked up in a straitjacket real quick. I will continue with this stuff because these people who get into this stuff, they're the ones who should be in the straitjackets in the first place.
So, my dear Lily, are you okay on time to go with these questions?
Yes,
okay.
I'm good.
All right, I'm going to get to the first question here. It skips back around to when we were talking about drinking and spirits. And Crystal has a question. Is there a difference between drinking and spirits and mushrooms? And I'm going to add to the end of that, not only to talk about the mushrooms or any of the other psychedelic natural, organic, Earth's ayahuasca, marijuana, things like that. So,
this is a whole show in itself.
Yes.
Could you just keep it just let us know the difference between
I'll
spirits
try
and
to
mushrooms?
be as short as possible. Anything that is created or manipulated, so any kind of psychedelics that are created chemically, like in the lab, those are all created for one specific reason, to harvest your spirit energy. So far, the only thing that I know for sure is that pot, if grown right, it has to be grounded when it's growing.
Mm-hmm.
And have photosynthesis from the sun,
And the sun. So because I live in Colorado, where pot is legal here, and a lot of it is growing not ungrounded.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have an ungrounded pot, it will unground you, and it'll give you paranoia. but the correctly grown will ground you. So because it's given by the planet, and so... and
it's not a... also because some plants in nature have been hybrided too by Dracos,
yes.
you know,
what
in
about
the past.
mushrooms?
That's a very interesting topic, I tell you, because...
I don't know.
Well,
Would it be about the same thing if it's an organic mushroom and you know the species and you know that you can use it in a grounded way to I don't know why anybody would want to travel the astral realms, but to travel the astral realms?
Well because like ayahuasca is also grown by the planet, but it is hybrided. Mm-hmm. So it's like a hybrid. So a lot of people go into astral level when they have ayahuasca.
And a lot of that nature spirits stuff has been taken over by Dracos as well. So it's so for people doing ayahuasca, it's like, look, an experienced, well-lived person can handle ayahuasca, the experience of it. But I wouldn't say it's for everyone because it is very astral. And
it just goes you into astral levels. And you see everything the way it is. And so there's no human cover to it. And that's why a lot of people see a lot of dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of astral tagged people who are very strong characters anyway, you know, just good people who happen to have tags and just completely unaware of it, well, yeah, they love all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because the actual astral tag gets to have it's a full Disneyland for the day adventure, you know. It's like...
Mm-hmm.
So
it really depends on the person who's doing it, what level of understanding and awakening and
consciousness
they're at.
And then if you know where ayahuasca will take you, and if you understand that you're going into astral levels, and if you want to take a trip there still, go for it.
And that's the importance of being with an experienced shaman who can be with you, and they do a lot of talks. Like sometimes a day or two, they'll talk about the experience, and you get to decide what you really want out of that in order to do that. Personally, I have no desire to go roaming around the astral realms. I like to be in this body and and stay really grounded with the planet. So
I would suggest, just on the mushroom question, check out a lot of the research of Jan Irvin on mushrooms and that. He brings up some very interesting points.
Awesome.
And how it's been used in history and Gnosticism and the connections to astrotheological stuff, because it's true. Look, I know a lot of people that have had experience on mushrooms, some musician friends, intelligent, strong character people who can handle this sort of stuff. And a lot of them have had experience with graves when they're in that state. They can see ships. There's lots of interconnections into sort of astral realms that you get with mushrooms. But yeah, there are a lot of different types of mushrooms too. And some, yet again, it's something that can be done in a completely safe way, and there's a way that can be done very not safely and not responsibly at all, and it depends on consciousness as well. And look, I've come across a lot of people over the years who have totally lost themselves to things like that, because if you take that stuff and you're ungrounded and you're unsure about yourself, some of those things may not, for some people at certain stages of where they are consciously, be the best things at all. It's like the same thing can make you laugh and also make you cry. The same thing occurs with those sorts of things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can be very enlightening tools, but at the same time they can actually bury you in such a sort of deep, dark abyss within yourself that you may not ever sort of come out for a while. So
mm-hmm.
it all just depends on a lot of those factors. But generally speaking, once you actually center and you actually start connecting, and the thing is, why a drug, say like pot, that's a non-astral drug. And the thing is that it actually undoes mind programming, because it actually gets you to actually feel with more of your center and your senses if you're open to it. But if you're not open to it, pot will be a nightmare drug for you.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, if it's a strain of it's just sort of nasty Illuminati strain, that's basically designed to be ungrounded and full of chemicals, and in a way that's sort of, it's more of a mind fuck rather than sort of an experience that enhances and expands you to use all of your senses, and to it will literally bring the unconscious mind, your biocells beneath the DNA coding right up in front of your face. And for some people, that's a great thing. Other people, it's an absolute nightmare because they're already in denial of themselves, emotionally. Yeah. So there's so many variables there. You have to look presently with what's going on with, every person, and for them assessing and how conscious they are of what's going on with all the processes here, because really all of these drugs, so to speak, tap you into a part of your consciousness, they're like a window, to have a look in, an easy sort of, window look in. But ultimately you can tap into all these parts of yourself just through your own centering anyway, once you basically take all these DNA code locks and you basically start lifting the veil for yourself on, the true reality of your surroundings. And I think we're learning to talk to our body and just, ask your body, does it want that or not, Exactly, yeah. So thank you for answering that. And then I have another question from Jeannie Michelle Joanning. And is chronic illness a program? And how do we stop being ill if it is a program in our body? Okay. There's 2 movies out at the moment that address that absolutely completely. And one is called The Business of Disease by Sonia Barrett. It's brilliant. And then there's that other one called Bought. I haven't seen yet, but I heard it's very, very good in the same ilk. Because the whole terminology of chronic disease it's all wrong in itself. The whole concept of having pain management clinics. It's like, well, why do you want to manage a symptom when you're not actually diagnosing and looking at the whole illness, disease, as, from the actual root of the problem? And that's the whole problem with the corruption of modern medicine. It's all this brilliant symptomal sort of, you could say remedies, but it never addresses the root cause of the illness, because if it did that, they wouldn't be able to make money. And unfortunately, the people in who've hijacked this whole industry or created it from the start, whichever way you want to look at it, well, that's the way they think and operate. And although there are a lot of great, sort of souls out there, with genuine intent, want to help humanity in medicine and science, it's unfortunately the whole paradigm has been created to work against you, but still, people do come out with great things, but people just need to be aware of that in the sense of it's as simple as that. Chronic illness, no, not at all. Once you center, then you have an ability to actually balance your mental and your emotional with your physical, okay? And then once that happens, all physical illness that happens, once your mental and emotional is balanced again, well, then the physical can heal by itself. That's the amazing thing. And that's what should be taught with all health everywhere. And it's the same thing. Once we're conscious of the parts of our health and what we really need for our body's functionings, to have the symbiotic process of, physical and sort of spiritual sort of parts of ourselves, working to help each other function, because it's all one big whole function, an organism that just, everything works together, to basically, exist, in a whole sense. There's no one part that's working more than the other, really, when it comes down to it. With some functionings there are, but overall, it's all working together, That's the real oneness, All your parts working together. So, go on then. I'm going to add to that, once we center and all of that, we will be able to heal all that. But sometimes there's also comes into play that past lives and
and some things that might have been carrying, cared from past lives, which is also will be healed. For some people, it might happen quick, and for some people, it might take some time to heal some of those other things, because it could be layered, energetically.
Yeah, it depends on the nature of the injury too, and how long it's been in a sort of like an out of balance state. It's like myself, I'm going through at the moment. Like this crazy shape-shifting thing, actually reversing the shape-shifting and then getting my body back to normal. Well, that's been like a 10-month process in itself for it to gradually happen. Like, literally imagine your whole body has got to, like, all the muscles and soft tissues and skin layers have all got to basically come back to its original point before it sort of got turned into something else. Now, I know that's not meant to happen, and it's, something that you hear that's just pure fiction and baloney and stuff like that, but this is something that I've been through and I've had to heal myself from, and I had to go way beyond the conventional medicine thing and the whole journey I had to go through. And my humiliating sort of journey. Here you are just trying to be honest with medical practitioners and specialists and all the thing, let alone have the money to be able to afford just to be in the breath of their presence or presence of their breath. To get their mind opinion in most cases. Well, that is quite a process in itself. And I actually had to find a way to reverse all of this. But look, at the end of the day, I'll just say I'm a living example of you can heal yourself with almost nothing but earth minerals and centering and deciding that, well, nothing's over until you decide it's over anyway, no matter how dire something might come to be. Because in my case, my body was physically all twisting up and changing form and shape. And I'm going, this isn't meant to happen. What's going on here? And it actually took me 3.5 years to realise that was actually happening to me. I was sort of, until then, looking at it in the way that modern medicine looks at it. Okay, this part, let's go and look at this part. And then you've got this part of you wrong. Got this long list of sort of, what turns into this label of chronic diseases, or not, I should say, chronic injuries. And I'm thinking, no, these are not chronic injuries. This is like, I've actually overcome every sort of disease and illness in my life, and I've had a lot of them. And I had all the vaccinations when I was younger, the whole shit fight, let alone be medically experimented on with extra stuff. But the thing is, I've gotten through it all, and with my body having one ailment after another after 3.5 years, well then, literally, I did eventually work out there was all this weirdness that happened when I was younger. And once I went down enough rabbit holes understanding the technology and know how they can do certain things and mix sort of their medical knowledge with occult applications, that all comes from that occult information anyway, well, then you start realising all the crazy stuff these people are up to and what they're capable of doing. And the thing is that it's very simple in order to heal yourself, and that's what they don't want you to know. You look at every single person who heals themselves from cancer or any sort of neurosystemic degenerative sort of disease out there. It's all very, very simple remedies, combinations of, minerals or natural plants or, applications that you actually do with your body or just literally getting yourself into mental and emotional balance so the body can physically actually heal itself. Because once you're in imbalance, then you physically can't heal.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to just interrupt for a second and say that, the problem that most people do find themselves in is that the pain and the agony and the depression that goes along with this kind of chronic illness is exactly what keeps them from centering and balancing. And sometimes, I'm just hearing about some wondrous, miraculous things. Like, for instance, Greg Prescott just healed his sciatica after, 20 years where he was debilitated, couldn't hardly walk in a grocery store without having to stop and bend down and stretch his back. And, sometimes it takes someone to help you work through that. There is a thought process involved. And, okay, what is this? How is this energy affecting me? and then the second thing I think that happens is, well, you find healing modalities and you just continue to work. You continue to work on it. You can get outside help, professionals with healing modalities. And the third thing is that the earth is working with us. And, he spends a lot of time on the 99.9% quartz crystal sands of the beach where, in Siesta Key. And when you ground with the planet, eventually it's going to break free. So I just want to give everybody hope, and if you are by yourself and you're having these chronic illnesses, talk to somebody on the phone, just go over these things and address the issues that you may not even realize what you're addressing, but things will come up in the conversations that you have, and you're basically acknowledging it and transmuting energy, and you may not even realize it. So, share your experiences. You have to feel these things. You have to open. The heart does have a part to play in this healing. You have to open that heart, because a lot of people's heart chakras are closed down, or they've been hurt so many times they're afraid to feel. You have to feel these things and just let things flow through you, and then that's how the energy gets transmuted.
Yes.
Okay, so we're at the end of. We really have run out of time. In 2 weeks, I have another show scheduled with you guys. If you don't have any other updates coming, then we can skip. I can just skip that week, and we can have one again in a month or two. But if you do want to do that show, just keep in touch with me so we can keep everyone updated. We don't want to rehash the same stuff over and over. There's plenty of videos for that. So let's just play it by ear.
I'm sure with feedback from this show and the last and information of late, there's been a lot of information, not just coming from us, but just what's going on at the moment. I'm sure within 2 weeks that'll be easily addressed in that sense, because people will want to know more about certain things as they do, and it's like, and we want to know more too.
Yeah, we're all learning together. Yeah. We're all learning together, and this is a platform, thanks to Greg Prescott, and thanks to the fact that I just decided one day to do a show. And this is a platform to get out this information. And, like I always tell everybody, if you've got stuff you want to talk about, contact me and you can be on the show. I want to thank you to my family, for being here with me tonight, and for having not being in fear and being able to finally come out and share information with people and know that we're not, we have nothing to worry about as far as they can't touch us now. So I really appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Michelle, so much for having us, and thank you, everybody, for listening and, taking this journey with this planet and being alive together. It's a really an incredible feeling to be alive on this beautiful planet.
Yes, it is.
Thank you all.
Okay, and everyone take care, and so we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Okay, good night, guys.
Ciao for now. Night. Afternoon.